exciting opening. Annie and Robin explored the unknown, flying through canyons. Like kids, they zipped in their car under the sunset, enjoying an incredibly sweet honeymoon in Kenya. They went on an exhilarating rock-climbing adventure with friends, who joked about how Robin managed to win Annie's heart, something even Annie couldn't explain. One thing's for sure, Robin's unique charm captivated her, and their married life was bubbling with sweetness. On this trip, they welcomed their love's little miracle, and Robin was overjoyed after all. He married the girl of many people's dreams. Robin promised Annie to grow old together, but fate seemed a bit jealous of this perfect couple. But then, disaster struck the family. At an embassy party, Robin, always victorious, flopped unexpectedly. He looked dazed and overwhelmed. Should he squeeze Annie's hand? At first, he shrugged it off, thinking it was just fatigue, but when he tried to hula hoop, he lost balance and went down like a cartoon. Struggling to stand up, he bravely said, "I'm fine, I've got Annie," and started joking with her. But that night, Annie went home alone while Robin stayed at the embassy for a meeting. Suddenly, Robin felt pain all over, and breathing became tough, so he dragged his tired self to find friends and went down. This time, he couldn't get up. At the hospital, his limbs were numb. He could barely breathe, and then he started burning up like it was a super hot moment. The doctors quickly used ice packs to cool him down, but in just 2 minutes, Robin shockingly went into a coma. The doctors had to insert a tube into his throat, saving his life with a ventilator, and the next day Annie, anxious, rushed over. The doctors hesitated to break the bad news to her, simply saying things were stable for now, but she saw her husband weakly lying in bed, and overnight, her lively man turned into a living dead. It was a stark contrast. He could only open his mouth in pain, but made no sound, a mute sorrow, as Robin was diagnosed with incurable spinal muscular atrophy and he couldn't breathe on his own, and the machine could only sustain him for 3 months. His life's clock began ticking down. This terrible news struck like lightning, hammering Anne's fragile heart, yet she didn't crumble into hysterical tears, shockingly calm. She refused to believe her husband was given a death sentence and didn't want their newborn to grow up without a dad. Family urged her to give up, but for Annie, he wasn't just alive, he was her indispensable lover. Soon after, their son was born, and Annie smiled, hoping to ignite Robin's will to live. But when she gently placed the baby beside Robin, he couldn't look, despair telling him he couldn't watch their child grow. To seek better treatment, and he decided to take Robin back to England, but all he saw was another lying down spot. Everything felt the same. It felt like a room full of patients like him, the only proof of life being the buzz of ventilators. But even the new environment didn't help Robin. Instead, he felt like a burden to Annie, even if he survived the doctor's deadline. They couldn't escape this cold existence. How could he bring happiness to his lover? As days passed, his condition showed no improvement, and hopeless, he sank into despair. He even had the doctors help block Anna's visits. He knew that Robin hadn't accepted reality, even though she deeply desired to maintain her dignity. She was ultimately compelled to allow her 2 brothers to visit. Yet the only news she received was Robin's desperate wish to die, a heart-wrenching turn of events, indeed. But how could Annie give up? Even betting her own future, she would never surrender. Fortunately, with advanced medical treatment, Robin slowly learned to swallow again. If things continued to improve, they could remove the tube from his trachea, and Robin could speak with hope. Even hearing good news couldn't ignite his will to live. He just wanted to pull out the tube, even if it meant a few minutes of pain. He wanted to swap a moment of pain for Anna's everlasting companionship. To remind Robin of his strength, Annie brought their son to visit him every day, but Robin still couldn't bear to look at their son. A single attachment would only deepen his anguish. Life kept punching him with heartbreak, ripping Annie apart, yet she never shed a tear in front of him. Instead, she feigned strength to bring him sunshine. Annie brought in a famous priest, hoping to clear the clouds from Robin's heart, but deep down, she knew it was just self-deception. That morning, Robin suddenly found his numb hands could move. What a waking moment. I'm finally not a superhero anymore. He yanked out the tube that kept him breathing, slowly sat up on the edge of the bed, inhaling long-lost fresh air, but it was all just a dream walk. Annie still watched over him, desperately telling him, "Leave me, you're a burden now. You really ought to leave me. I don't appear to be in good shape. It seems like..." "I love you," facing Anna's unwavering love. Robin couldn't hold back his tears, yet he knew he couldn't give her a bright future. To be with Robin during his final days, Annie hoped to bring him home to care for him. This high-risk decision faced opposition from the director, "Unless you can carry a ventilator." But that was clearly impossible. Yet Annie knew that Robin staying in the hospital would only worsen their spirits. So she spent $7,000 on an old house in the countryside to learn caregiving. Her unwavering love for Robin deeply moved the doctors. This extraordinary love finally touched the doctors, who decided to take the risk of being fired to help Annie sneak Robin out.